When people disrespect you, the very first instinct is often to internalize their words or actions, to think that somehow their lack of regard is evidence that you are not enough. This is a very human response, but it is also a dangerous one. Because the truth is, when someone disrespects you, it rarely has anything to do with your value. More often than not, it is a mirror reflecting their own struggles, their insecurities, their frustrations, and sometimes even their own lack of self-respect. They project outward what they cannot handle inward. If you allow their disrespect to settle in your mind as a measure of who you are, you hand over yourself, worth into the weakest of hands. Think about this. A person who is at peace with themselves rarely feels the need to diminish another. Respect flows naturally from a balanced heart, but when a heart is unsettled, when the mind is restless, when the ego is hungry for validation, disrespect becomes its language. It is a cry for significance even if it comes at the expense of someone else. So when you are confronted with disrespect, do not see it as a verdict on you. See it as a revelation about them. That shift in perspective is the first step toward reclaiming your power. Psychology teaches us about projection, the defense mechanism where people cast their unwanted feelings onto others. A person who is insecure will try to make you feel small. A person who feels unheard will interrupt you. A person who feels powerless will attempt to control or belittle you. If you accept their behavior as a definition of yourself, you reinforce their projection. But if you recognize it as a reflection of them, you break the cycle. You protect your dignity without even engaging in their game. Philosophy also reminds us of this truth. The Stoics, for example, taught that we cannot control the actions of others, only our interpretation of them. When someone disrespects you, they are acting according to their own character, not yours. If you allow anger or shame to take over, you are giving them ownership of your emotions. But if you pause, observe, and understand that their behavior arises from their inner state, you remain free. You rise above the trap of reaction and reclaim your own narrative. Now, this does not mean you excuse or tolerate disrespect. It means you interpret it accurately. You anchor yourself in the knowledge that your value is intrinsic. It is not determined by how others see you, nor is it diminished by how others treat you. If someone throws dirt at a diamond, does the diamond lose its shine? No, it may be momentarily covered, but its brilliance remains untouched. The same is true for you. Their disrespect may sting, but it does not alter the truth of who you are. Sometimes it helps to even feel compassion for those who disrespect you, not in the sense of accepting their behavior, but in understanding the pain behind it. A person who lashes out has not yet learned peace. A person who demeans others has not yet discovered their own worth. To see this clearly does not make you weak. It makes you wise, because wisdom is not about fighting every battle. It is about recognizing which battles are not yours to fight. So, the next time you encounter disrespect, pause and remind yourself, this is not about me. This is about them. That single thought can prevent you from carrying unnecessary wounds and empower you to respond with strength instead of insecurity. And let me leave you with this. ***, you are not defined by how people treat you. You are defined by how you choose to respond. ***, silence is often misunderstood. People think of it as weakness, as passivity, as if not responding means you have surrendered your dignity. But in truth, silence is one of the most powerful responses you can offer when confronted with disrespect. It is not the silence of defeat, it is the silence of mastery. Because silence communicates something words rarely can, that you are in control of yourself and therefore no one else can control you. When someone disrespects you, they are often fishing for a reaction. They want to provoke anger, to pull you into their chaos, to make you prove your worth in an argument that never needed to happen in the first place. The moment you respond with aggression, they win, not because they are right, but because they succeeded in pulling you down to their level. But when you choose silence, you deny them that satisfaction. You send a clear message: I will not waste my energy proving myself to someone who cannot see my value. That is not weakness, it is wisdom. Psychology backs this up as well. Studies in emotional intelligence show that people who react impulsively often reinforce negative behavior, while those who pause, those who can hold their composure, are perceived as stronger, more reliable, and more in control. Silence is not emptiness, it is presence. It allows you to pause long enough to regulate your emotions and decide if a response is even worth giving. By choosing silence, you take the higher ground and protect your peace of mind. Philosophically, silence has always been regarded as a form of strength. The Stoic philosophers spoke of the discipline of not reacting to every insult, because to react is to admit that your inner world is vulnerable to someone else's words. Think of it this way: when a dog barks at the moon does not bark back. It continues to shine, untouched, unbothered, steady in its presence. That is what silence looks like in the face of disrespect. Silence also gives weight to your voice when you do choose to speak. If you react to every insult, your words lose power. But if you remain silent most of the time, and then speak with calm authority when it truly matters, your words carry far greater impact. People start to realize that when you speak, it is not out of impulse, but out of intention. That is the difference between noise and influence. Of course, silence is not always easy. The ego wants to fight back, to prove itself, to have the last word. But true strength lies in resisting that temptation, because in silence you are not ignoring the disrespect, you are rising above it. You are saying without words, your actions do not have the power to define me, nor the privilege to disturb me. And that is perhaps the most dignified response one can give. Sometimes silence is also a mirror. When you don't respond, people are left to reflect on their own behavior. They are forced to sit with their own words, and often that discomfort is a far greater teacher than any argument you could have offered. So the next time someone tries to drag you into disrespect, remember that silence is not the absence of a response. It is a deliberate, powerful choice. A choice that protects your peace, preserves your dignity, and proves that you are unshakable. And always remember this: not every battle deserves your voice. Sometimes silence is the loudest statement you can make. One of the most powerful lessons you can learn when dealing with disrespect is the importance of boundaries. People often misunderstand boundaries. They think of them as barriers, as walls meant to shut people out. But boundaries are not about exclusion, they are about preservation. They are not built out of fear, but out of respect, both for yourself and for others. When you set boundaries, you are not being unkind. You are teaching others how to treat you, and more importantly, you are affirming to yourself what you deserve. Disrespect becomes a pattern only when it is tolerated. The first time someone crosses the line, it is a moment. The second time, it becomes a habit, and if you allow it continuously, it becomes a part of the relationship dynamic. That is why boundaries matter. They act like silent signposts saying, "This is where I stand, and this is how far you can go." Without them, you leave the door wide open for people to define your value on their terms. With them, you reclaim the authority to define it yourself. Psychologically, boundaries are linked to self-worth. People who struggle with setting them often fear rejection, conflict, or judgment. But here's the paradox. When you avoid setting boundaries to keep the peace, you end up sacrificing your own peace. And what kind of peace is that? Superficial harmony on the outside while you're breaking on the inside. Boundaries may sometimes create discomfort in others, but they create freedom in you. They are an act of self-respect, and self-respect is the foundation upon which all respect from others is built. Think of boundaries like the fences around a garden. They are not meant to isolate the garden from the world, but to protect it from being trampled. You do not plant flowers and then let anyone walk over them. You protect them so they can bloom. In the same way, your dignity, your time, your energy, they are precious. If you let people step over them without restraint, the garden of your soul will wither. Boundaries ensure that what is beautiful within you is preserved and allowed to flourish. Philosophically, boundaries reflect an understanding of balance. Life is not about pleasing everyone. It is about living truthfully. When you dare to say no, when you refuse to engage in what disrespects you, you are not rejecting the person. You are rejecting the behavior. This distinction is crucial. Boundaries are not about punishing others. They are about protecting your own values. You can still love someone deeply, and yet not allow them to speak to you in ways that diminish you. You can still be kind, yet firm. True strength is gentle, but never fragile. Of course, setting boundaries will not always be welcomed. Some people will resist. Some will accuse you of being difficult. Some will try to guilt you back into silence. But remember, the people who benefit from your lack of boundaries are the ones most offended when you finally build them. That should tell you everything you need to know. Boundaries reveal who is truly capable of respecting you, and who only valued the access they had to your tolerance. So when you are disrespected, do not shrink into silence alone. Pair your silence with clarity. Speak firmly when necessary. I will not be spoken to that way. Or, this is not acceptable for me. And then stand by those words. The power of boundaries does not lie in the statement. It lies in the consistency with which you uphold them. Because at the end of the day, boundaries are not just about protecting yourself from others. They are about reminding yourself of your own worth. And always remember this, ***, when you set boundaries, you are not pushing people away. You are pulling yourself closer to the respect you truly deserve. ***, when you face disrespect, the natural impulse is to fight fire with fire, to raise your voice, to prove a point, to strike back in the heat of the moment. But aggression, while it feels powerful in the instant, almost always leaves you emptier afterward. It drags you into the very energy that wounded you in the first place. The truth is, responding with aggression does not elevate you. It diminishes you. What truly elevates you is composure, the ability to stand in your dignity without being shaken by someone else's chaos. Composure is not passivity. It is not about being silent out of fear, nor is it about letting people walk over you. Composure is strength under control. It is knowing that you could retaliate, but choosing instead to remain calm, because your dignity is more valuable than the satisfaction of winning a petty exchange. That is what makes composure so powerful. It demonstrates mastery over the one thing you truly can control yourself. Psychology tells us that when you react with aggression, your brain enters a stress state. Your body floods with cortisol, your heart rate spikes, your thoughts become cloudy, and you lose perspective. But when you remain calm, you keep access to your higher reasoning, you maintain clarity, and clarity is power. It allows you to decide whether the situation even deserves your energy, and if it does, how to respond in a way that aligns with your values rather than your impulses. Philosophically, think of composure as an art of self-governance. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and emperor, once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." When someone disrespects you, they want to pull you into their storm. But when you respond with composure, you do not become part of their storm. You remain the calm in the middle of it. And in that calmness you retain your power. Responding with composure does not mean you never speak up. It means that when you do, your words are chosen carefully, your tone is steady, and your message is clear. Aggression seeks to wound, composure seeks to stand firm. Aggression shouts to be heard, composure speaks to be understood. And people may not always like it, but they cannot ignore it. There is a gravity in calmness that aggression will never have. Imagine two people in an argument, one yelling, the other calm, to an observer who looks stronger, who looks in control. The one who does not need to raise their voice, because their presence itself communicates authority. That is the silent power of composure. It shifts the dynamic. Instead of being pulled down, you lift the situation up by refusing to give away your self-control. Of course, this is not easy. It requires practice, self-awareness, and discipline. The ego will whisper, prove them wrong, show them their place. But wisdom says, protect your peace, show them your strength. And strength, true strength, is not in the loudness of your response, but in the steadiness of your presence. So when you are confronted with disrespect, pause, take a breath, remind yourself that composure is not weakness, it is your greatest shield. Because when the dust settles, people rarely remember the words exchanged in anger, but they always remember the one who stayed grounded when everyone else lost balance. And I want you to carry this truth with you. *** aggression may feel like power, but composure is power perfected. *** the people you allow into your life shape you in ways far deeper than you may realize. Every word, every interaction, every subtle energy leaves an imprint. If you are constantly surrounded by those who belittle you, who dismiss your worth, who make light of your dreams, it becomes harder to protect your dignity, even if you know, intellectually, that their disrespect is not about you. That is why choosing your circle wisely is one of the most important decisions you can ever make. Because no matter how strong you are not immune to influence. Human beings are relational creatures. We crave connection, but not every connection is nourishing. Some connections drain you, pull you down, make you doubt yourself. Others uplift you, remind you of your strength, and reflect back to you the best version of who you are. And the difference between the two is not accidental, it lies in your choice. Too often, people keep toxic relationships alive out of habit, guilt, or fear of being alone. But staying connected to those who repeatedly disrespect you is like staying in a room filled with smoke and wondering why you cannot breathe. The environment itself is suffocating you. Psychologically, we know that behavior is contagious. Confidence is contagious, but so is insecurity. Kindness spreads, but so does cruelty. If you allow yourself to be surrounded by people who normalize disrespect, over time you risk internalizing that treatment as something acceptable. But when you intentionally choose to walk with those who uplift you, who celebrate you, who challenge you with love rather than belittle you with criticism, you create an environment where respect becomes the natural language. Philosophically, this ties back to the idea of alignment. Life is too short to walk with those who do not walk in the same direction of values you hold dear. Respect is not a luxury, it is a basic necessity of any human connection. If someone cannot give you that, they do not deserve access to the most vulnerable parts of you. It does not matter whether they are friends, colleagues, or even family. Choosing your circle is not about rejecting people. It is about honoring your soul. You can love someone from a distance if being close to them constantly erodes your sense of self. And let us be honest, it takes courage to choose wisely. It takes courage to walk away from those who cannot see your worth, even if they are familiar faces. It takes courage to say no to the noise so you can say yes to peace. But remember, every time you release someone who disrespects you, you make space for someone who will value you. The universe has a way of filling the space you create with something better. but only if you are brave enough to let go of what does not serve you. So ask yourself, who are the people that make you feel lighter, stronger, more hopeful after spending time with them? And who are the ones who drain you, diminish you, and make you question your worth? The answer to that question tells you exactly where your boundaries of belonging should be drawn. Because at the end of the day, the company you keep is not just about companionship, it is about direction. Surround yourself with those who uplift you, and they will pull you higher. Stay with those who disrespect you, and you will constantly be fighting just to stay afloat. And never forget this. The people in your circle should not dim your light, they should help it shine brighter. Disrespect hurts, no matter how strong or composed you are. Being treated as though your worth does not matter leaves a sting. It can wound your pride, shake your confidence, and at times even make you question yourself. But here lies a profound truth. Pain, though uncomfortable, is also a powerful teacher. You cannot always control how people treat you, but you can control what you do with the experience. And when you choose to transform that pain into growth, you turn disrespect into a catalyst for becoming wiser, stronger, and more grounded in your own self-worth. Think of every moment of disrespect as an invitation to either carry bitterness, resentment, and anger, or to carry lessons, perspective, and resilience. If you carry bitterness, you remain chained to the experience. You replay it, you relive it, you let it shape the way you see yourself. But if you choose to carry lessons, you begin to rise above it. You ask yourself, what did this moment teach me about who I am? About who I allow in my life, about the strength I still have within me. And when you frame it this way, disrespect stops being just a wound. It becomes a window into self-discovery. Psychologically, resilience is built not in the absence of pain, but through it. Each time you are disrespected and you choose to learn instead of collapse, you are strengthening your inner muscles. You are teaching your mind and heart, I am not defined by the way others see me. I am defined by the way I rise after being overlooked, underestimated, or dishonored. That resilience becomes a shield you carry forward, not a shield that hardens you, but one that reminds you of your own strength. Philosophically, there is a deeper layer here. The great thinkers of history have always reminded us that adversity is not an enemy but a sculptor. Just as fire refines gold, challenges refine the soul. Disrespect, as painful as it is, strips away illusions. It forces you to confront who you truly are, apart from the applause or the approval of others. It invites you to anchor your worth not in external validation, but in inner conviction. And when you emerge from such moments, you are no longer dependent on the fragile respect of others. You carry an unshakable respect for yourself. This transformation is not easy. It requires you to resist the urge to become bitter, to not mirror the disrespect back, and to not let it close your heart. Because when you allow disrespect to make you resentful, you give power to the very thing that tried to diminish you. But when you transform it into wisdom, you reclaim that power. You turn pain into perspective, and perspective into growth. In practical terms, this might mean using disrespect as motivation to develop yourself, to prove not to them, but to yourself, that you are capable of more than their opinion ever allowed. It might mean deepening your compassion, realizing that those who wound others are often deeply wounded themselves. Or it might simply mean walking away, carrying the quiet strength that says, I will not be reduced by this moment. So yes, disrespect hurts, but it does not have to leave you broken. It can leave you wiser. It can leave you stronger. It can leave you more deeply connected to your own worth than you were before. And that is the ultimate victory, not in silencing others, but in strengthening yourself. Carry this with you always. Asterisk asterisk disrespect may cut deep, but if you choose, every cut can carve out a stronger, wiser, and more unshakable version of you. Asterisk asterisk.